Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're chatting with Mark Laurie. Mark is a professional photographer and owner of Inner Spirit Photography, focusing on boudoir and beauty photography. He's also a teacher, speaker, author, and a studio mentor. So we'll turn it over to you, Mark. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and your background?
I can do that. Well, I've been doing this for about 45 years. My specialty is nude photography. You got to imagine this. When I started doing this in 1980, when our company was incorporated, Calgary was 400,000 people, highly conservative. And I was the only person who decided that was the only thing I wanted to do. Everybody else would. I think one photographer had it in his line. It was tasteful black and white figure studies. And he did them on Sundays, and they had to park away from his place. It was a terrifying thing to do. And I evolved into this as a break from my real estate. I was quite a successful realtor. We bought our first house and all that kind of young stuff, young character. And as a break, I wanted to do photography or something. It became photography. And I discovered if I was doing a nude photo session, or start off with a boudoir, it'd be like I was gone for 4 days because it was completely consuming. It was emotional, get the person happy, comfortable, safe. It was physical. I'm building sets, moving things around. It's intellectual. I'm working with f-stops and chemical and then computations and all that kind of stuff. So there wasn't a part of me that wasn't completely absorbed in the whole thing. And in a very short period of time, I transferred. My wife said, you enjoy this more. Women seem to like it and want it. And the way we kind of went. And so the entrepreneurship, I've never really worked. I think most I worked for employers. I was working as a recreation director with some actual training. But the biggest thing I got was when I was about 16 years old, like I walked to my dad working the math, and he's a big math character, worked for what was now NMAX. At the time it was Calgary Power. And what are you doing, Dad? And he goes, well, I'm looking to see what I'm making in 15 years. I go like, well, what do you mean? How do you know that? And so he says, well, they've got the benefits, the bonuses, and this whole thing worked out. So I can today figure out what I'll be earning in 15 years. And it was a pretty big number, but my reaction was, that's your limit. Like, right now, today, in 15 years, you can't make anything more. Like, what the hell? Yeah. And it had a huge impact on me. And so I like to chart my own course now. I mean, it's a bit of a crapshoot when you're an entrepreneur, as you know, and so kind of get into. So anyways, we got deeply in my photography. We've got all sorts of awards. We got hauled over to England to teach, which was kind of exciting. Our clients have phoned us, and my instructors brought me over 16 countries. Oh, wow. So you're well traveled with it. Yeah. Yes, I love traveling. I got photographs in outer space. We have my own TV show series as a winning contestant on a photography reality show. And then they asked me back to judge for 2 seasons. So it's been a pretty diverse. We've got 5 books out, all sorts of kind of things that come along the way. So it's been good. That's the big, broad picture of what I do. Yeah. Mostly though, the core of what I do, one last thing, is to change women's lives. And that's what my whole formula is I find out what they're looking for. And we've actually been focused on clinical studies, but that's my real big buzz is you can see a woman changing through the course of the photo session. Emotionally, her whole body stature changes. And that's a really exciting motivational thing. So my core, I guess, is to chase your passion, and then the money in the business will come, but you need to be a businessman. You just can't be a passionate person. That's a cool story. Interesting journey into entrepreneurship, because a lot of people followed their parents' footsteps into entrepreneurship. You did the opposite of that, and said, no, I want more, and I want that passion and excitement. It's true. My dad actually followed me. He was looking for a small business, and one day he looked at biking and had not big enough margins. Looked at photography, selling cameras seemed to be a popular thing. Again, margins were big enough. So one day I walked, he says, my mom always wanted to go on a hot air balloon ride. So lots of kids got together and we gave her a hot air balloon ride, right? And a week after that, Dad says, can I show you something? You want to see my hot air balloon? I go, what? Thinking, custom balloons. Walk in, here's this big basket in his garage with this balloon. And these things are like tens of thousands of dollars. They're not cheap. Yeah. He had no pilot's license. I'm going, oh my God, I'm responsible. So the tables turned. How did that end? Like, is that what he's doing now? Like, you got to tell me more about that. Dad has since passed away, but no, he was a very sharp individual, and he got into it At one point in time, he had the largest hot air balloon company in Canada.
Really?
With commercial flights. He was the one that brought in, they're called, at the time they're called roof toppers. They were inflatable balloons that had a big message on top of a storefront.
Yeah.
He brought those in. My mom, once she got the bug to fly, that was it. She would be pilot first, and Dad was always the backup guy for it.
Okay.
My sister got into it with her pilot's license, and then then they bought Balloon Boutique, which was a balloon specialty store, making bouquets, and he's always thought big, and he was doing massive displays. Like he did we have it in Calgary, there's a thing called the towers downtown. It's massive. He had the whole thing in balloons. It would do a balloon drop, and they'd travel all around the world learning how to do specialty impacts. And so he really
interesting
stepped into it. Yeah. So I may have given him the vision to, because when he left his company, he retired early, and they were confused because one guy's retiring because he was old aged. Another girl was retiring because her husband was moving, and my dad was retired because he wanted to do balloon flying full time. And they didn't have a scope of how successful his business was. That it was actually, his full time job was impacting his income from his part time job, so to speak.
Right.
So and I learned a lot from my dad. He was sharp with math and numbers. That was a weak suit of mine. My dad's an amazing mathematician, lousy at spelling in English. My mom was amazing at English and really bad at math, and I inherited bad math and bad spelling.
Perfect. So they had the yin yang, and you're bad at all of it then.
Right, Chad. It's a struggle.
So you talked about getting into photography in the early 80s and wanting to go that entrepreneur route. What really pushed you into photography, though? Like, what was the drive behind that?
It was an internal appeal thing. Like I'm looking around, and I actually borrowed my wife's camera. She was doing the photography at the time. And this would be about 78, I guess. Everything I talk about now is decades ago. I feel I feel this is fun. And it was just it just mesmerized me. There was like something inside that goes, this could be really cool. And so I very rapidly got into photography, and the other stuff couldn't hold my attention. Like I'd be doing, say, a family photograph, or even a scenic, and part of my brain would still be back at work. But whenever I was doing the female photography, the boudoir stuff, it was all absorbed. And so I just gravitated to that kind of passion. I'd build sets. That was our hallmark. Most photographers all had these really simple backgrounds.
Yeah.
And mine are elaborate. Like we had French doors built for the studio, and they had to sort of hang, because everything would be taken down. Like we start from our basement. And so I had 6.5 foot ceilings, and we had center beams to deal with, and so on. So I'd have a rollout on one side. I went back 8 feet, and it was the French doors, and you put them away, but they're all special frames and so on. And we brought barnwood in, and I had to build sort of windows that come up and go down depending what I was doing.
Yeah.
And we had to get pretty inventive to what was happening. But there was a point, I think most entrepreneurs go through this, where we were struggling, starting off, and we're underfinanced. That's one thing that was so two things were my strike against me for success. One was underfinanced. I didn't have the money to do things right, so I had to kind of scraddle and grow, which is really slow.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Broke the bootstraps a couple of times. And then, of course, I never took any schooling, because, of course, at that point in time, there's nobody teaching boudoir photography. It didn't exist, really. It was just starting to emerge. And so there's no courses. Back then, there was nothing like today. Like you'd have a photographer come up to teach a course, and you didn't matter what he was talking about. There was knowledge about photography, so you took the course. But this one day, we'd had a really, really bad month. We had one client that came in, and her gift to her husband was he could see the photographs. We view them as slideshows, and that was no intention to buy. I didn't know this. To buy, just there, I got naked, and there's my photographs here. And he's like, "Can I buy some?" "No, dear, we can't. We're gonna go now." Like, what? That's really hard to do this, guys. So it was July. It's about July 12th, and I'm driving down. I'm just feeling like I'm not making this money. It's going south, and I'm trying to decide what to do. And I hit this stoplight, and it was on 72nd Avenue on McLeod Trail. It's very vivid in my brain, I'll tell you. And I'm looking up the stoplight, and it goes green, and it just clicks up my brain and goes, this has to work. I don't want to do anything else. I don't think I can do anything else. I sure as hell can't work for somebody else anymore.
Yeah.
So I have to find a way to make this work. And then you're up against the wall, and you dig in, and you find really clever ways. I mean, some stuff adversaries a great deal, and lack of options is also an interesting position.
Mhm.
And I hired at one point a marketing firm, because I'd read, this, even back in the 80s, my vision was to have a team and do something, right? So again, my vision was bigger than my budget. But I hired this marketing team, and they're doing stuff. They were mid-level stuff. They were pretty good, and they weren't cheap. They were really not cheap. But I scrounged for it, and they kept on doing things. My instinct goes, that's a bad idea. But no, they're the pros. They know their stuff.
Yeah.
We'll go with what we're paying for, right? So they finish the campaign. It comes out, 2 clients out of it.
Oh.
2, okay. And both these girls were not flush with money. Sweet kids, wonderful stuff, did amazing photographs. And so the first girl comes in, oh, these are great. I can just afford 1 print. And this is back when I was charging $50 a print. Like it really wasn't much money.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God. Okay, well, I got the second girl coming, right? And she had come in from out of town. And she said, this is wonderful. I could only afford 1 print this month. And I heard this month. I thought, oh, because that suggests, right, that the next month you can afford more.
Yeah.
So I said, well, you could, we have a calendar of the month thing. You could pay me each month to get these photographs, right? So we'll call it a calendar series. And each month we'll get a folder. It'll be a print and it'll be a calendar thing. And it's $50 each month. I'll buy 12. So my calendar series was born. And we got into layaway plans and stuff. So we could, at some points we got better and better and better, and our prices increased. We had really another influential, Charles Lewis, as a workshop from him. And this was astounding. He was really flamboyant. And he goes, every 6 months you have to have a price increase, because right now you're probably charging less than what you should be. And so you need a price increase. And I kind of go, oh, that makes sense. And he says, no, what's going to happen is you're going to get bold and brassy 6 months out. Like, yeah, we're having a price increase. This could be like 5%, maybe 10. I don't know. It could be 15. I'm nuts. It's going to be great. 1 week before the price increase hits, you're going to go, oh my God, no, I'll lose all my clients. This is insane. I will not be, oh my God. And you go through this terror. But you hold fast, you have the price increase, and God, the ceiling doesn't fall. All the new clients don't know nothing about your old price. They're just, and that's when I discovered a key thing. And I think this goes across any industry. And it's, if you charge less than what you think you're worth in any industry, you get sloppy. A client complains, something goes wrong, the product isn't quite right. And you go in your brain, well, what do they expect for what they're paying?
Right.
And so you slowly shift down. You slowly start to do less and less, and you're forced to charge less. And your customers get more disgruntled. It's really a mess. Yeah. But if you charge more than what you think you're worth, and usually that means you're not charging what you're worth, it's just more than what you think you're worth, you're terrified. You're really scared that someone's going to call you on and say, "What do you think you're worth this amount of money for the job you're doing? You're just playing with a camera." Okay. So the result is you amp up your game, because you don't want to have anybody think they're, so you start to improve the quality of your stuff you give people. You take courses, you spend time in your craft. Yeah. And then 6 months later, you increase your prices and you're terrified all over again, and the cycle increases. And so you have an upward spiral. And then one day you go, wow, I've come a long way. And that's the process. The other thing I discovered is, I was with Strategic Coach, which is a phenomenal coaching program. I was with them for years and years. And through them, we get paired up with guys, and I had this concept of a spectrum. And he was struggling with something. I said, well, maybe this will work for you. I said, here's perspective to see things. Now, the perspective is there's 4 stages of your clients. The first stage is the person that complains about how lousy your work is, how much you charge too much. And they're really angling to you to kind of go, yeah, I guess right, here's some stuff really cheap. Yeah. Kind of break for you, right? The next, and that's their job. Like they're skilled at it. They're talented. And they can really press buttons. They know what they're doing. And
it probably is that endorphin rush for them when they do get a deal somewhere, right?
Yeah. And they're pushing for it. Yeah. The second group of people, they really like your work, whatever it happens. In my case, it's photography, and they really want it. Like they just like you, whatever you're doing, you're speaking to them, and they can barely afford you. But and I think those are your most precious clients, because they're sacrificing. They're my layaway clients. Yeah. They're sacrificing to get your product, and when they sacrifice something, it's much more than a person writes you a big check. The next group of people think, oh, you're fair price, fair product. Here you go. Then you got the next group of level of people, and there's the ones that they've discovered a gem. They know, because they're bright, that you're not charging what you're worth. and that's going to change. So you're the find. You're the diamond in the rough that they have discovered, and they can get the super deal because they recognize your genius, they recognize your craft, and they recognize you're not charging enough for it. They're going to not really take advantage of it. They're going to meet you. If they're beating you up, they're just saying, well, that's what you want to pay, charge. Okay, here's some money.
And the next group of people, it might go up in the future as well. So
they know it's going to go up in the future. They know that they've discovered a growth thing, right? The next group of people are the most fascinating because they're the ones that can easily afford you. And they don't hire you because and one guy told me this outright. He said, your stuff's pretty good. Your prices are too low. And that means there's something you can't deliver. I don't know what that is. I won't find out until I hire you. I am sorry. I won't find out what that is until I've hired you, and then I stumble across it. It's going to be, I'm not comfortable in your scenery, and there's going to be a standard with your something. And so when you hit the next level, I'll hire you. Now, the part that's interesting about this is that as you go up in your prices, your clients change, but those people don't. And as you hit a certain point, that really interesting, badass level, okay, those people, they start to fall away. Like in my photography, when I hit, I think it was $75 an 8x10 print. I mean, now we're up to like 200 or something for it. It starts off, you just get one sliding scale. But at hit a certain point that they just know it's not worth their effort anymore. And so they start to really kind of vanish. And the people who are in the echelon who find your work golden, they'll say, gee, this is really expensive. Not that it's not worth it. Like they want to be very careful, they think you're really good. The value is there. They just don't have the funds to do it. And can you help us with that? And that's when we did the layaway plan and the calendar series. Mm-hmm. So there's my
you're dropping off the clients that you don't necessarily want, and then you got to keep all the ones that you do want. And maybe craft some programs, like you said, the layaway, so that you can help get that second group into the market.
Yeah. And then along the way, you discover your tribe. And so there's people that whatever you're doing, the way you do it, you speak to a certain group of people. And the problem is if you go with what's popular, you're not going to. So I'm a warm and fuzzy kind of character, and clients come to a kind of warm and fuzzy. If I start going, that those prickly people, they got money, I should market to them, right? Yeah. And so let's say, for example, it's a biker. Let's say we're gonna go with kind of the biker community, and I'm a warm fuzzy person that's really not a biker person, but I think there's marketing there, right? So we start doing something with them, but they know you're not really a biker person. Like you're not hard nosed, whatever that is. Not saying they're bikers or cold prickly people who do a lot of bikers. Whatever that is, it's against your tribe. They sense it, okay, and so you're not really in there, like you're just, and so you're kind of in, but you get a little bit of money, but you're really not making. You can't figure out why. Meanwhile, your main clients go, "You're changing, right? You're getting prickly on us. We don't want anything to do with this." Sergeant, I think it was Dr. Pepper experienced that. They wanted to get a larger market of the sweet market, and so they changed their soft drink from that real bitter kick-ass taste to something more like Coca-Cola, and they had a huge drop in sales because the people who are Dr. Pepper drinkers, they like being the lone wolf, the badass, the black sheep, and suddenly we're sugary. Like what the hell? And they weren't going to drink that anymore. Meanwhile, the other guys go, "No, you're not a Coca-Cola. You're like a pretender. You're not really a soft drink."
So they're not.
So all of a sudden, nobody wanted them. So that's my insight there.
That's interesting on the pricing model and those different strategies for sure. What would you say a skill is that kind of differentiates you or helps you out in that industry?
The biggest one is empathy. We really connect with who our clients are. It's not, I don't know if it's really a skill. I can almost sense a person when I talk to them, and I kind of, and this sounds a bit wooey. One of my clients, they're a massage person. They said, "Well, you're really intuitive with your own subconscious. Like you really trust your intuitive nature." So I think what happens, he says, is I think your subconscious talk to their subconscious that knows what they really want, and so how far you can take them, where they're going to be comfortable in that. Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure. A lot of it's reading body language. So reading body language, understanding stuff. And then making things available. So we in our studio, we're kind of like almost a commercial studio in some ways. That rather than having us have our photography brand, this is my look, we find out what their look is, what's their brand, so to speak, when I'm a photographer. And so we adapt what I do to meet their image. So when they see themselves, it's cloaked in their brand, if you will.
Right, not yours.
Yeah. So some studios you go to, like, oh, we're dark and moody and browns.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you like dark and moody and browns, we're your studio. This is our thing, right? And it's easy to market that. Like, that really is an easy brand to market. And my marketing is much harder because diversity. So we're trying to explain to somebody, we do your brand. I don't have a brand. You kind of do. There's something you're going to like, and you may not know what it is, but I'll make a suggestion. You're going to go, that doesn't sit right. Oh, good. We won't do that. We'll do this. The second thing I guess we do is I'm always, even now, honing my craft. We bought lenses for my phone because that's really an up and coming thing. We bought little handheld smoke machines. We're playing with fire. So we got one of our newest things is we put a protective solution on a person's body part, and then we ignite it. And I've had it done with mine. So the result, it looks incredible. Like, she did it to me on live camera. You'll see it on Facebook. Go to my Facebook feed. She put this thing on here on live camera. Have you never done this or never seen it? Okay, like, this is gonna be so cool. Watch this happen. And then she's got this big torch, and she touches my arm, and then this whole arm, it ignites in flames. It goes up 5 feet, right out of the frame. You can't see my face. It's like, boom, this wall of flame. That's so cool, people. And then now we're doing that. So she came in, and we had 2 clients that, and you have to, it's kind of a nude thing because, it doesn't hurt your skin, but it can affect clothing. So you don't want to have clothing melting. There's a lot of stuff. And some clothes, okay, like cotton, amazingly. And so we had 3 clients in to create our promotional stuff. And so they're coming out, and you're putting, fire on their backs and their bums and their legs and their arms and kind of stuff. And it's powerfully, like, our whole key thing is empowerment. Like, when you finish a photo shoot with us, amazing. And we've had 30 weddings because of our photography. We had one girl, she was 70. She left the session. She went out and took an ad in the Sun. 70 women looking for like-age man, purpose mutual, spoiling. Several months later, he took her out for Valentine's gift. She brought her book along of nudes. They're both divorced. He's in his late 60s, she's in her 70s, and he goes, "We got to get married. This is like so solid." So it's dramatic changes. We've had people go through. We have a book out called Revelations. It details some of the stories that are just profound with what they accomplished with it for. And that's and when people come to us, that usually, and this is very different again from other studios. Most studios are like, boudoir photo shoot, I'd be fine. I should go and do that. With us, it's kind of like for everyone looking for pickles, all of a sudden she has a craving. It's like the brain knows we need to be this studio because important things happen here, like right down to the core. And we've been studied by psychiatrists. We've had CBC did a 20-minute, so cute. They did a 20 minutes. It took them 4 days to get all the material together, right? And that's naive. And I said, so, when's this get aired? Next Tuesday. I said, cool. How long's it before? I'm thinking like an hour show because you're there for 3 days. He says, well, it'll be about 15, 20 minutes. That's all. Let me put it this way. If the president of the United States gets shot, he will be on the air for 5 minutes. You'll still get 20. I go,
there you go.
So I'm good. I'm good.
We're okay. That's funny. I just want to jump back on one of the things you said about kind of when we talked about the skill and more of like, you said it was almost like the intangible. To me, that really sounds like the emotional intelligence side, which I think a lot of people do struggle with, but it sounds like you might have honed in on that.
Yeah. And it's creativity and emotional intelligence aren't, they're not woo, they're not, it's like, well, here's this special gift for you. They are something that you learn, you repeat, and you go after it. So I learned quite quickly that if I'm watching a woman getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable, I can guide things, what questions to ask. Awareness, and as you start to become more aware, then it bleeds out into everything else. And so emotional intelligence is the same as bright intelligence. It's a craft that you learn. It's an approach that you have to invest your time into it. Some people may learn it easier than others, but it's completely learned. The more you immerse yourself into it, like anything else, the more you immerse you into especially if it's a passion like mine is, it just becomes, it seems effortless, but because you're passion driven, And so when you're passion driven, everything's exciting and fresh and new and cool to look into. And so it's not like work. Whereas if you go, okay, my job requires to get some emotional intelligence here. Okay, page one, what do you got to do next? Like it's a routine kind of stuff for it. So it's got to follow. So the emotional intelligence is really critical. Awareness, being people of watching them to do stuff. It's really that's like I'm a great fan of Taylor Swift. She's got that deep. So many levels of her, from the way she functions her business and does her whole show and stuff. But she stopped the show at one point where some girls were moving a flashlight around. She stopped to say, "Look, you in the back there with the flashlights, are you distressed and you're trying to signal me because you're distressed, or you're just having a good time?" Having a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then she went off the show. But can you imagine the emotional, intellectual? If you've got like 75,000 people in this huge arena, all these moving parts and dancers and songs, everything, and you stop the show because you think there's an anomaly out there that could be that's high emotional connectivity. Like that's absolutely really deep. To even be able to have part of your brain watching for something in the middle of that level of a show
while you're performing.
Yeah. And then suddenly brain goes, there's something here that's not right. Look into it, and you stop and you check. She had a thing where there was a she's up to say a bodyguard was bullying or doing something that she didn't think was quite right with one of her fans. And she's singing, and in between I guess riffs, she's going, "She's not doing anything bad, stop." And it took her like 3 times before a couple of securities said, "Leave her alone. This is, she's talking to you."
The boss.
That's your boss. Paycheck, stop what you're doing. But that's high emotional content. And it's kind of powerful. And the businessmen that succeed probably, and there's also a lot of guys that I suspect in business, they're kind of ruthless. In some jobs, they may require to be a bit more ruthless. But I still think that no matter what your job is, most jobs, there's a situation where you can have some. I don't think hitmen need the empathy thing, but most other people do.
That's fair. So I imagine in your world, and I'm somebody that has never stood behind the camera taking really pictures of anything, but particularly naked women. In that world, though, I assume that emotional intelligence is probably a very, very important thing, because it's very, very vulnerable. I would assume
it's extremely. The more vulnerable a woman is, there's a thing that happens with women. I just discovered this about a month ago with my we actually have a psychologist on staff. We're the only studio in North America to have a psychologist on staff. We've got a shibari on staff, a body painter on staff, and a fire master on staff. But they just lost my train of thought for a second. That one kind of goes into so when a woman is photographed by a safe male photographer, there's chemical changes in her brain, and she becomes more confident, more self-assured, more creative, and bolder, more sensual in her poses. But it only happens to the male photographer, because it's a chemistry between male and female stuff. But it's got to be safe. Like, the studio has to be safe. We do a lot of abuse victims, rape victims. We're referred to we've been said by psychologists for that purpose. We've had life coaches refer us people, because it's like, you want this, break this threshold. And I can appreciate that. We did stuff like we've walked on fire twice and leapt off of buildings and so on as part of the whole program, which is kind of just to push yourself, get scared. And every time you do something that is scary and bold, like last week, you get pushed out, but the last man never comes back to what was before. Like, so in your business, you take a risk. And I always caution about risks. You see these speakers that go, "Oh yeah, one guy says, you got the golden parachute, go out of the plane, but you can't open it until you're out of the airplane falling down. Then you pull it and you're saved," right? And I keep on getting this vision from a lot of these speakers who are telling people, be bold, be brave, just take that risk. And I keep on, everyone grew up with Evel Knievel being a big name. And I get this vision of this great big cliff jump. He jumped over, I think, Cougar Canyon or Snakebite Canyon or something. And this guy said, "Oh, you can do it. You believe in yourself, go across." The camera is so high that down below, there's a mist. You can't see the bottom of the cannon, right? And they never talk about the guys that fall down. They only talk about the guys that made it.
Yeah.
Below that mist are all the guys that weren't really prepared for the risk. Like stuntmen. Like a stuntman, their stunts are safe. But by the time they get into their risk-taking moment,
Yeah.
They've really looked at all the angles, odds, and they're ready to go. Yeah, something can still go wrong, but they're more likely to get hurt in a car accident rather than on the set, because they really nail it down.
Yeah, it's about mitigating those risks, right? There's always going to be the risk there, but you're taking all the precautions against it.
And the bigger the risk, the bigger the payoff. I mean, that's just reality. It's like a gambling thing, but at the outside, it can look like a horrible risk. It just got massive change, but you've gone inside, you've done your math, you looked at your spreadsheets, you've done your cost analysis, all those things. And then you go, yeah, this is going to work. Yeah. I've got to believe. Then there's this magic component of how much do you believe, because you do have to believe. Yeah. And there's a bridge there, that the last 10 feet, is the belief that, yeah, this is going to work, and you'll do it. There's a guy that did this. He had a belief that there was a gap between university and high school that wasn't being served. There's a bunch of people he didn't think should go to university. So he had this whole thing in place, like a blue collar workman kind of thing for it. And he's a priest. So he thought, well, how can I get this across? And so we made a sermon on invited people, the place is full. And he gave his whole vision of this educational system for it. And everyone was like rapidly attention. And they walked and they left, except one guy. And this one guy, he says, do you believe in this? And I says, yeah, I have no doubt. It'd be great. He says, does it have to be cash? Can it be like in trade? Like, I own a construction company, so like we could do stuff. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. So it went forward. And of course, once he got involved, other people got involved, and that became Nate. They was down in the States. That's where that came from. The guy that had to tell his story and believe deeply this was right. And then one person goes, if you don't need cash, just all cash, I can make this happen for you. We can work on this. Tell me more about your vision. Because the same token, I got another friend that came in. He was very wealthy, and this kid was bemoaning the cost of education, university. And so in his brain, he says, well, I can help this kid. Like, I could pay for his entire 4 years of university. I could pay for his courses, his living. He wouldn't have to have a job. He could just go do it, graduate, no cost. Did not share this thought with the kid, though. But instead he goes, so if you were to get a free ride, what would you do? Oh, God, I don't know. I'd find a place, a good party school, and I'm sure I could find something I like. The kid had no plan. He had no vision. And he did not know that he was talking to the man that could hand him 4 years of free education, anything he wanted. He just had to have a plan and know what he wanted, and he didn't, and he lost it.
I was muted there. That's one of those ones that you look back on, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one to eat.
Yeah.
So Mark, if people wanted to get a hold of you, look more into your work, or look at booking something with you, where would they get?
There's two easy places to reach me. One is through innerspiritphotography.com. Innerspiritphoto.com is great. And the second one is going to be through marklaurieart.com, which is our art line. And or just, you can call us at, or do an email at markl@inner-spirit.com, and you'll reach me.
Perfect, Mark. Well, certainly appreciate having you on the show today. And
it was a delight.
Yeah, it's been great. Hopefully the rest of 2024 goes well for you, and I
think it will. I'm playing with fire.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.